You should subscribe to the Monaresclub. Because the Principal Saints told you to, idiot. Bye.
Well, what's good, guys? This is James bringing you another tier list update for my thoughts on the upcoming meta. We just had the Set 12 pre-release as of the time of me recording this, so hasn't been any major events or anything. These are just going to be kind of a prediction tier list for how I feel the new set is going to interact with the rest of the format. So, yeah, let's just get right into it. I'm doing a little bit of a new format here where I'm just doing top tier. Well, I'm not like doing S through B tier necessarily. I'm doing kind of like, you can see here, top tier tournament contenders and locals contenders, which is kind of how I did the format before for S through B, but without explicitly saying this. But I figure this is just a little bit more straightforward and to the point. So we'll see this. We'll see how this works out. Let me know if you feel like this was more effective or less effective or whatever for conveying how I feel these decks are. So let's get into it. So top tier, obviously Red Broly is going to be the deck to beat. It's kind of the elephant in the room. Nothing really changed for him. He didn't get anything hit on the ban list or anything, and he was arguably the best deck already. So he's he's definitely the deck to beat. There's no getting around that. So most of these tiers aren't really in order, but him being on the very far left here is no mistake. So Red Broly's still really good. Gotenks and Soul Striker and Sin Shenron, all of these are still really good. They kind of cycle in and out of the format in terms of favorability and positioning, but they're all still really strong. I definitely think they're still top tier contenders. Same goes with Dark Broly. Dark Broly could maybe be argued to be kind of like more over here next to Red Broly. He's also, he keeps a lot of decks out of the format himself. He's kind of the policeman for the format right now, and yeah, Dark Broly's not going anywhere. Sin Shenron got a bunch of new cards from Set 12, but I think his overall positioning in the meta is still about the same, just because he struggles against Dark Broly, which can't really be prevented. Anything that, it needs the drop area to play the game well is going to have a hard time against him. The Janemba leader doesn't necessarily mean the Janemba leader itself. I just think it's something with the Janemba chain. It could just be Soul Striker. But this is just kind of a representation of the Janemba chain. I think the Janemba chain is good enough to be considered top tier, at least for now. I could definitely see it just up here in tournament contenders. Mecha Frieza reboot is insanely good. It's probably going to be the best yellow deck going in the next format. It's going to be a good police deck for these other decks up here, and it's in this tier. Invoker, I still think, is the top tier strategy. It hasn't done a whole lot, as far as I know, recently. But it still gets top cut placements every now and then, and it's another one of those decks like Soul Striker and Gotenks that cycles in and out of the format. But I don't want to just bump it out of top tier just because it doesn't place in a couple of tournaments. Vegex still, I think, is up here. He is a little bit lower, obviously, because he got big nerfs, but I think he's still good enough to be up here, and he's definitely the best black aggro deck, with Dark Broly being a little bit more of a mid-range strategy. And Reboot Gohan is kind of tough to quantify just because of how he is, obviously with his placement on the ban list or whatever, it's kind of tough to decide just where he goes. So I'm putting him in top tier, but obviously he's not top tier in best of one, right? And he's not as good in best of three format either, so he might just be up here in tournament contenders now. It's really hard to say for him. All right, so moving into tournament contenders, which is, it's just A tier. I think these are kind of the decks to beat in the format and the ones that you have to keep in mind when, building a side deck and whatever. Tournament contenders are still very strong strategies. I think they could get top 8, and, I would not be surprised to see any of these decks in a top 8 cut for any given event. So that's kind of where I think of these. They're not necessarily going to, be taking every tournament or be placing in every top 8, but I think they will, I would not be surprised to see them in any top cuts. So, like I said, I don't have these in any particular order. I just have the set 12 stuff at the top here just to kind of display, where I think set 12 is, that, just to kind of highlight these leaders in particular. Salsa and Shroom is going to be really strong anti-meta. It's not going to necessarily... I think it's got some inherent flaws that are going to keep it out of top cut contention, regular top cut contention, but I think depending on where its position is in the format, like if there's a bunch of stuff relying on the drop area that's running around, then it's going to be way better, and it'll cycle in and out. Launch is just a really good aggressive strategy. Obviously Kentarsi has shown what it can do with the red-green build with the Piccolo from the draft box. It's just really strong, hyper aggro. I think it's definitely up here. Whis is kind of a wild card pick for me. I think he's solid. I think his game plan's solid. He gets to play a lot of really good yellow cards. I just think he's a little bit worse than Mecha Frieza, but I think Whis is fine. Turles is kind of an interesting case because he's a green leader, and green leaders just kind of always fall into this category, for me at least, where they all kind of start doing the same thing. So it's just kind of a season to taste kind of thing. If you like Turles and you like his inherent card advantage he gets from the Tree of Might and stuff like that, and getting the big doubles, the Super Champa for the leader basically, is really good. So he's it's just kind of, do you want to play Turles? Do you want to play Gotenks? Do you want to play, Broly? Just pick a green mid-range leader and you're off to the races. I think Turles is a fine one for that strategy. Ultimate deck Toa, really good. Just struggles a little bit with some matchups up here, but overall, she can take on anyone in this tier, and most of the decks up here as well. Just struggles a little bit with the really hard aggro of Red Broly. Honestly, Red Broly is kind of keeping a lot of decks that are in here out of being up here, and some of these ones that arguably shouldn't even be in this tier the only reason they wouldn't be in here is because of Red Broly. So, Old School Broly, actually, first set 1 Broly, the new field spell helps him a lot, so that's why I kind of have him up here with the set 12 cards, because he got that reboot card, and it helps him a lot. He's not going to be broken by any means, he's just another really good, strong, viable hand control deck, and so I bumped him up here from locals to tournament contender with that. Bulma's still really strong rogue pick, I like her a lot. If you want to pick a rogue deck that is an anti-aggro deck, this is a very strong pick. Agents of Destruction, it hasn't gone anywhere. It's still a really good deck. It's just a little bit more predictable. A lot of people have kind of moved off of it, but it can still do stuff. Same goes with Skillless. Cell Surge has been doing really well with the aggro variants, with the not the Cell Chain, unfortunately not the Cell Chain, it's with the Frieza Chain, the Frieza Zeno Chain, and it's been really good. You could argue Frieza shouldn't be up here anymore. He hasn't really gotten any placements. I still believe in Frieza, so I'm putting him still in tournament contenders. He hasn't really done a whole lot since set 10, really. So you could really argue he should be bumped down here, but I think he's still really good. I just think people aren't really playing him. Same goes with Dredgeku. He's just, mono green hand control. It's just what flavor of mono green hand control do you want to play? Do you want to play heavy drop focused and use like maiden transformation and stuff? Then you can play him. Trunks has actually started popping up more recently thanks to his addition from the expansion. I had him up here, I think, on the last tier list. I might not have, but yeah, the new expansion card has helped him a lot. He's been doing stuff in the format, and I think he got a top at the most recent PPG, which had like over 100 players. So that's pretty real. He's at the very least a solid rogue pick. Vegito, SS3, Zamasu, these are all blue decks, and they all do kind of the same thing. It's kind of the same vein as mono green hand control. I think these blue mid-range decks are all fine. They're just probably all a little bit worse than Soul Striker Reboot, but if any given day these could be better against the rest of the field, depending on where everything else is positioned. Like if there's a bunch of stuff that the Zamasu leader can take out really easily, then he might be the pick. Or, if you want to go super slow control, you might want SS3. It's just how it is. Baby has gotten... I think he got one result last format in a webcam event, but otherwise he hasn't really done a whole lot. You could say he might just be down here, and I could maybe see an argument for that. Maybe I'll just move Baby down here. I think Baby is not up here anymore. He's good, he just has some flaws, and then the silver bullets don't help him at all either. Yellow Gotenks is still really good. He's just a mono-yellow mid-range deck, and he can do so many different things, super flexible. Garlic Jr., I think he's good. He's I think he's still good enough to be up here, and the expansion card obviously helped him a lot. Golden Frieza's done a lot in the last format. He got a top in the European webcam event, and I've had him up here in my A tier since set 10. So I was calling it. He's still a good leader, and you know all the stuff he's gotten lately has only helped him. So Golden Frieza's going to be here to stay for a while. Vegeta is still just really good aggro deck, and the expansion Boo helped him a lot. Broly is here not for his own chain, but because of how he plays with the Hirudegarn chain, which is definitely a top tier level chain, in my opinion, and I think he's the best leader for that. Jiren, I've also had up here in top cut, and I think he's going to stay for a while as well. I don't know why he's not with the yellow leaders, but Jiren, I think he's really well positioned in the current format. He just kind of manhandles Red Broly, and you know any aggro deck. Obviously, he's going to be a really solid pick for, and he gets access to some really powerful cards as well. Just that leader skill is so unique and so inherently powerful. You can't disregard Jiren. You know, I've had him in A tier, tournament contender tier, but on pretty much every tier list I've had since I started doing these, and I don't think he's going anywhere. And then Mono Black Boo, he's just kind of... I still think he's outshined by Vegex, and I think Vegex still plays the Boo chain better than Boo does, even, but... you know, Boo does better against green. That's pretty much the only difference, and I think Boo's still fine. I have this miscellaneous aggro tier here, which might sound kind of funny, but I kept saying on all my other tier lists, you know, this is just an aggro deck, it doesn't do anything different than the other aggro decks, and that's just kind of what I put in all these aggro decks here. You know, all of these are still fine decks, and they all do aggro things. I just think they're all... I don't think any of these do anything notable that the other ones, you know, they're just not that different from each other, so I just put them all in the same category. I think it's between tournament and locals, so I just kind of put it here, where they're just beatdown decks, you know, and they're fine. They'll get people when they're running hot, and they'll lose to Dormant and Topo, you know, when they have them. So, yeah, miscellaneous aggro tier is what that is. We just talked about Baby here, and, you know, I just put him down here. We've got Pick on King Piccolo and the two new reboot leaders down here. I think King Piccolo is really good, but, you know, we're in an aggro-dominated format right now, and starting with 6 life is just too much of a hindrance. If we move toward more mid-range, I could see him getting bumped up here. Pycon, I think, is just... He's cool, but he doesn't do anything super special. His boss monsters are good, but, like, all these other decks' boss monsters are also really good, so... Bergamo and Announcer, I think, are good. It's just their strategies are a little outdated. I think they're still really solid. They're definitely bumped way up from where they were before their reboot leaders. SS4 Ramp is fine, you know. Most of these decks down here are just, you know, they're just really solid picks. They just might do something a little less inherently powerful than the ones in the tier above them. And that's why I have them down here. Bardock mostly suffers from his leader not being very good. He has some really strong cards himself, but the leader's just not that good. The same goes with, like, Hirudegarn. Hit could potentially get moved up here, but if, you know, running Janemba Chain or whatever. But, yeah, these are mostly... This tier is mostly the same from the last tier list. I don't have to necessarily walk through every single one. If you have any specific questions on where I posted, you know, put someone somewhere, just let me know down in the comment section. But yeah, that's the tier list. It's pretty straightforward. I think the main wild pick here is the Whis. It might just be down here, but I think Whis is solid. Yeah, everything else is like pretty close to the same as it was in set 11. Honestly, the format's not going to change a whole lot. You know, I don't think I added a single deck to top tier except for Janemba and Mecha Frieza. And even Janemba, you could argue, should just be down here, which I could see that maybe too, because he's an aggro deck and doesn't do anything that different from Broly. But then, like, Mecha Frieza reboot and everything else is pretty much the same. So I added the set 11 leaders, and none of them really made it up through here except for the reboot. So thanks for checking us out, guys. Again, if you got questions, comments, you just think I'm a complete idiot, let me know in the comments section below. Make sure to hit the like button, the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video, guys. Bye.